Alright, so this is a tutorial to make a low poly rose. This is what our end render should look like. So we're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to escape out of this, save my project, and then reload our startup file. So I can remove this starting cube, pressing X for delete, and then clicking on delete. And I'm going to add a cylinder with Shift A and choose cylinder here. And for vertices, I'm just going to put 5. This is going to form the stem of the rose. I'm going to scale it down so it's pretty small, maybe even a little more, and using S for scale and then moving the mouse is how I did that. And then I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode, zoom in a little more with the middle mouse wheel. I'm going to turn on my screencasting real quick here. Okay, so now you can look down here and see what I'm working on. So we're in edit mode, and I'm going to right click on this top face. First choose my face select here. Right click on the top face, and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit and press E. Oh wait, oops, I'm going to undo that. I'm just going to drag it up a little bit first. I'm going to make like a 3-part stem, and then E for extrude. This will be the middle part, and then E one last time. So we've got our rows here. I'm going to make these a little bit more interesting than just a straight stem. So I'm going to hold Alt, or choose Edge Select first, and then hold Alt and right click here. We'll select everything around. Just going to move it a little bit off center here. I'm also going to rotate it just a little bit. So R for rotate, and then Z. I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on this one. So I'm going to hold Alt and then right click so it selects all the way around, and just move it a little bit out this way, and I'm going to press R for rotate, and then Z, just rotate it a little bit. Yeah, something like that. So now I've got some kind of stem for my rose here. Okay, so now I'm going to create the petal part. The petal part, I'm going to start with just a basic plane here. So I'm going to press A to deselect, Tab to go out of edit mode, and then I'm going to press Shift A to add another mesh, and I'm going to add a plane. We're going to click on this blue arrow, left click, and drag it up, and I'm going to rotate it. So R for rotate. I'm going to rotate along the y-axis and then 90 degrees. Just typed in 90 and then hit enter. And I'm going to scale this a little bit smaller since this is going to be about the size of the first petal here. So if I look at my front view or my side view here, that looks about right for the rose. I might go a little bit bigger, so S for scale, a little bit bigger here. Okay, so I'm going to start by extruding this, making it a little bit thick. So I'm going to press E. Oh, first I'm going to go into edit mode. There we go. Tab, and then E to extrude. Just give it a little bit of thickness here. So got my petal with a little bit of thickness, and I'm going to cut a couple pieces here so I can start manipulating this to be, there's sort of a spiral inside the rose, and then there are a bunch of petals around. So we're going to make one spiral and then 6 petals around the outside. So I'm going to press Control R to do a loop cut, and you have to put your mouse close to one of these edges here. See how it sets up to cut wherever edge you're close to. I'm going to move the scroll wheel down one, and now I've got 2 cuts here. And then I'm going to left click once and then left click again. So now I've made my cuts that go all the way around. I can start manipulating this piece. So this is all basically just hand manipulation. I'm going to start with choosing the face here and right click on this face, and I'm just going to move it in a little bit and then this way. So I'm creating basically a little simple spiral type shape, and I'm going to right click on this face and do the same thing, move it in a little bit like that, and then through this way. So I'm starting to get a little bit of a spiral going on. I also want it to increase in height a little bit, so I'm going to go over here to Edge Select and select this edge, top edge here, and just move it down a little bit so that it can increase in height. I also want to take this edge and move it a little bit. Let's see. No, what I want to do is move one of my vertices. So I'm going to press A to deselect and go to vertex select, and then Z for wireframe mode here. This should actually be fine. This is fine. Okay. So here I've got my spiral. I'm going to choose edge select again and move this one down just a little bit. So it's, oops, I meant to move this one down. Here we go. Okay, so I've got a basic shape here. I'm going to extrude now. Select this face and then hit E for extrude. Bring this out a little bit, and we're going to bring it over this way, and I want to rotate it so I can send another one in this direction. So I'm just going to press R for rotate and then Z and rotate around like that. Just adjust it. You can always press 7 to see your top view here. It's looking fine. I'm going to press E to extrude again in this direction. I'm going to bring it up a little bit and over, and I also want to rotate it. R for rotate and then Z, something like that, and then E, extrude, and for this last one I want to move it out just a little bit. Okay, so that looks pretty, it's coming together. I'm going to rotate again, Z, a little bit like that. I'm going to move it this way a bit, and then E to extrude. I'm going to come out like this, and then rotate, Z, and we can use this as our basic center. Maybe I'll add one more piece going this way. Okay, and the petals kind of go down at the end, so we'll go to edge select, choose this top edge here, and just bring it down a little bit. So we've got our inner bit now. And if we want, I'm going to move this one in just a little bit. Okay. So here's the inner portion of the rose, and then after this we're just going to add some petals around. The first few petals are higher than the middle, and then they kind of get smaller as you go towards the outside. So what I'm going to do now is press Tab to go into object mode, and I'm going to add a few of the petals around. I'm going to make one and then basically duplicate it and just modify. So I'm going to press Shift A, create another plane, lift it up here, R for rotate, X axis 90 degrees, click, zoom out just a little bit, S for scale, make it a little bit bigger than what we've already got. Okay, and it's going to start over here. And so we're going to follow a fairly similar method with this one. We're going to press Tab to go to edit mode, E to extrude just a little bit here. There we go. And then we're going to loop cut it into thirds again, so Control R, and then with your mouse over here without clicking, move the scroll wheel down once, and then left click, and then left click again. And what we're going to do now is just adjust it so this petal wraps around what we already have here. So we'll go to face select, choose our first face, bring it this way, and do the same thing over here. Okay, now I'd like to widen out this center portion. So I'm going to go to edge select here and choose this edge here and just widen that a little bit. Same with this one. Looks a little bit more like an actual petal. I'm going to take these edges and just move them down so they look a little bit more like a petal. Okay, now I also want my faces to be rotated in a little bit. So I'm going to go back to face select and press R for rotate, and then Z, and then turn them in like this, and then bring it in. So that looks pretty good. We'll do the same thing. Sometimes you might want to modify a vertex so that the corner doesn't look so weird. There you go. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Go back to face select, and then rotate, and then Z, and something like that. We'll move the whole thing in a little bit as well, and adjust this vertex just a tad. Actually, we'll leave it this thin, just move it away like that. Okay. So it's coming along here. We're also going to take this face, this edge here, and move it in a little bit. Since we want it to have the effect of being close in at the bottom, but then spreading out at the top. So we'll take some of these other faces, just move them in a little bit. One as well. Even though they're kind of overlapping now, you won't be able to see it at the end. Okay, so now we've got our first petal here, and we're just going to press Tab to go back into object mode, and then Shift D will duplicate it, and we'll place it here. Move it to the side a little bit, R for rotate around the Z-axis, something like that, and then we'll rotate it just a little bit more. So we want it to start outside the previous petal and then go around, and you can kind of just play around here. I want the bottom to be a little bit closer, so I'm going to press Tab to go into object mode, or edit mode, and then just select these faces at the bottom of this new one here. And I'm just going to press S to scale and just bring them in a little bit. Let's see how it looks on the outside. Okay, yeah, still looks fine. I'm going to tab out of object mode and just select both of these two and move them a little bit that way. let's see, I'm going to do this and just scale them both down a little bit. First we'll scale just in the X direction, and then we'll scale just in the Y direction. So that looks a little bit like a tighter rose. Okay, A to deselect, and then we'll choose our next petal. Actually, let me just adjust it a little bit so it doesn't look identical to the other one. So we'll choose this edge and move it a little bit, like that. And go back to object mode here. So that'll hopefully look better. And then we'll press Shift D, duplicate it, rotate, Z, and then we'll bring it out here, something like that. Now at this point I want them to start getting a little bit shorter. Actually, maybe we'll do one more like this. That looks pretty good for now. So then we'll Shift D, duplicate, put one here, and then R for rotate, Z. So now I'm going to have them actually start getting shorter. I'm going to press 7 for a proper top view, and 5, so I can see exactly where it is. Okay, now what I want though is them to get start getting a little bit shorter. And this one needs to start down anyway. But I want them to start getting a little bit shorter, so I'm going to press S for scale and then Z. So it starts opening up a bit. Actually, because of this bottom, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. Yeah, and then just bring it down. And I'm going to rotate it around the Z-axis just a little bit there. Okay. And I'm also going to press Tab to go into edit mode, move these bases in towards the middle a bit more. Like that. Okay, so we're just going to add a few more on the outside and then we'll be done with the rose portion. So Shift D, move it over here, R for rotate, Z, something like that. Bring it out over here. Okay. Again, R for rotate, Z. Okay, we're going to rotate it around the Z a little bit differently. It looks like if we go to a side view, it needs to be come up a little bit as well. This one also needs to come down. Okay, looks like with this one we need to bring it out a little bit and just widen the rows. So I'm going to press Tab to go into Edit, and then select this and just make it a little bit wider. And then tab back into Object Mode and we'll bring it back in towards the center, see how it looks. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to what we want. I'm just going to go to Front View and see how it looks from up here, which is where I want to take my picture. It's pretty good. I think I want to bring this whole section just in a bit like that. Go back to my front view. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Also might play around with this one. Maybe I'll rotate it as well around the Z a little bit that way. So I can bring it in a bit closer. There we go. So it's looking good from this angle. And so we'll probably just leave it at that. And now what we need to do is add our leaf. I want to add a stem here. So let's go back to this, press tab. And what we'll do is we'll make a loop cut. Maybe here would be fine if it came out from this part of the rose. I actually like it to come out a little bit lower. So maybe we'll hold Alt, choose Edge Select, and move this one up a little bit. And Alt, and oops. Hold Alt, right click on this one, move it up a little bit. Okay, so we'll have the leaf come out from this part. But we need one more loop cut here. So we have a place for it to come out. So we'll press Control R. And left click once, and then drag it down. And then left click a second time. So this is our front view. And we want it to come out from the side. So here's our side face. So I'll go to Face Select, right click the face, and my plan is to basically just extrude out, create our stem. And I'd like the stem to get a little bit smaller than it currently is. So make it smaller and closer before we extrude any more. So here's our stem coming out. We'll have 2 leaves come out right here and then one at the end. In fact, we're getting a little bit too far out from the flower. Alt and then right click. Oops. Choose Edge Select first, and then Alt, right click, and then we'll move this down a bit, like that. Okay, and this face too, we can right click and bring in a bit. Okay, I'm going to scale this down even a little bit smaller. So we're going to do another loop cut here. Control R, and left click once, and then slide here for a second one, and then we'll make our leaves. So right click, E for extrude. We're just going to go out a little bit and then start scaling. Okay, so press E to extrude and then pulled it out a little bit. And then I'm just going to press E and then click. And now I'm going to scale it, but only in the X direction. And then we're going to press E and scale it out. Move it out a little bit more. And then scale this again only in the X direction. And then E. And then E again. This time we're going to scale it back down in the X direction. And then E again. Now I'll put our point on the end here. Okay, so that's our first leaf. If we want, we could rotate it a little bit. I think it looks probably fine since it's directly horizontal. Well, we can just see how you would rotate it if you wanted to. So I press 7 for the top view, and then Z for wireframe, and then B for box select, and we'll select all of these faces. And then we'll just say rotate in the Y axis and just move it. Let's see, how do we want it? That looks funny. So a little bit, something like that, growing close to perpendicularly out from the branch. Okay, so back to Z. We'll right click this one and do the exact same thing. So E to extrude a little bit, then E again and click without moving it at all. And then we'll scale only in the X direction. And then E to extrude a little bit. And then scale X. This leaf can be a little bigger. And then E. And then one more time. We'll start scaling it in a bit. And then again, start scaling it in. And we can do one more. And then make it come to about a point. Okay, so here's, because of the perspective, this leaf got incredibly large. So we'll need to scale it down a little bit. That's pretty comical. So I'm going to we'll go back to our top view, move it down a little bit, Z for wireframe, and then B for box select. And we'll highlight all these faces and press S for scale. And then only we want to scale in the Y direction. So we'll move it like this, and also we'll scale a little bit in the X, S for scale, and then in the X direction a little bit as well, and then we'll move the whole thing closer to the branch. Okay, I'm also wanting this one to go in just a little bit. So I'm going to press A and then hold Alt, choose my edge select, and then just scale this in the X direction just a little bit. That looks better. I'm also going to play around with these just a little bit. See how the leaf looks as we do that. So my main problem is that this tip here needs to come in. There we go. That looks better. Okay, and then we're going to put, go back to our face select and put one leaf that will kind of like hang down a little bit at the end here. I'm going to lower this a little bit. Okay, so E to extrude. Now this one can get scaled in the Y direction immediately. Scale again Y. Okay, and then it'll go out a ways, or a little ways, and then extrude one more time. This time it'll scale smaller in the Y direction. Okay, so here's how it's looking right now. I'd like my leaves to be slanted down a little bit more. So I'm going to probably want all of them to be slanted down. So we'll go back to our top view with 7, Z for wireframe, and then B for box select, and just going to highlight all of these faces. Let's try that again. Okay, and I'm going to press R for rotate. I'm going to rotate around the Y-axis a little bit, like this. And then A to deselect. Get my edge select here, hold Alt to choose this set of edges. And here, let's go back to these and just move this whole thing down. And then rotate on the Y a little bit more, and then move the whole thing down and in a little bit. Okay. Alright, getting there. Okay, this is looking better, and now one thing that I want to do is fix this. It still looks silly to me. Rotate along the Y, just up a little bit. And also I'm going to go back to my top view and press A to deselect and then B for box select and pick up this guy. And we're going to rotate this one a little bit down as well. So R, and this one will be mostly around the X axis. And then we'll bring it down. Okay, so this is coming together. Here's this will be our main view of the rows, something like this. And what we'll do now is set up lighting and then call it a day. So press Tab to go out of, we'll also need to set the materials, but that shouldn't be too bad. So Shift A, I'm going to create a plane, scale that up, and we will go into edit mode, choose the edges, right click here, go into side view, and press E for extrude a few times, E, click, E, click. Okay, so we've got a nice backdrop now, and then we'll add a modifier, the subdivision surface. 2 should be fine, and we'll also go back here, change it to smooth shading. I'll make it a little bit wider just in case we need to. So I'll press S for scale and then X to make our scene a little bit wider. Okay, so now we'll set the materials for everything. Since we're on the backdrop right now, we can set the material for that. Change to cycles render and then add a new material. I'm going to go for something like a light kind of green. Let's see how it looks later. But for now that should be fine. Setting the materials on the rows is going to be a little bit, the stem is a little bit challenging. It just takes a little bit of time. It's more tedious, I guess, than challenging. So I'm going to right click on the stem here and then press Tab to go into object mode. Since the majority of the faces, well, the most difficult faces, I guess, are the petals, so we'll just start by setting everything the color that we want the petals to be, and then we'll go from there. Petals we want to be a greenish color, maybe like a dark green, something like that. And then we're going to add, no, it looks like it's asking to assign. Okay, so we'll select the faces and then assign that color to the faces. Let's try this, see if we can select them a little bit more quickly. We can hide some of our roses here, rose petals. Don't need the last one. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll press Z for box select and then just select all of these faces. And then I'm going to press B for box select and then hold Shift. Let's try that again. B for box select, hold Shift. Okay, well we can press C. And just choose all of these faces here, like this. Not so bad. Okay. Let's just verify that we've got all of our faces. Okay, we do. So we'll click Assign. And now we'll get our main stem here. So B for box select, and we'll highlight the stem. And we don't want to get this part of the stem, so we'll just hold Shift and let's see here. Deselect those faces. Let's go back to this mode so we can clearly see what's going on. Okay, we've got our stem now. For the stem, we'll create a new material and make it a brownish color. Okay, and then we'll click Assign. And the last bit is just this other part of the stem here. We'll select these faces. And then the underside, we can hide our plane. Okay, and for this one we'll make another color, maybe like a slightly, somewhere in between the brown and the green, so like a lighter yellowy green. Let's see here. Yeah, something like that, maybe a bit darker. Okay, and then we'll press Assign. So just this one is the leaf, this is stem, double clicking on these, this is leaf stem. Okay, so now all we have to do is color our roses. So we'll make them appear, our rose petals appear again, and we'll just want to make sure that we select, let's see, okay, so we don't want to select the plane 7, but everything else is just the petals. So we'll try B for box select, see what we get. And then we'll hold Shift and deselect. Okay, I'm worried about what I'm selecting, so I'm just going to select them manually, holding Shift and right-clicking. I think we've got them all. Okay, and then we'll create a new material. We'll call it rose petal, and we can make it some kind of red. Okay, so we've got our basic scene. We set our colors and things. I'm going to add one more piece, which is just a light source. So Shift A to add a mesh, and we're going to add a plane. Scale this up a bit and rotate it around the X. And for its material, we're going to have it have an emission material so that it actually emits light. We'll set the strength to 20. Okay, let's see how we're looking now. I'm going to press 0 for camera and then zoom in with the scroll wheel. Make this a little bit smaller. And then N for properties, and I'm going to choose lock camera to view. This allows me to actually move the camera. And something like this. I'm going to move this plane out of the way of the camera. There we go, something like that. Let's see, press 0 again. I'm going to get a little more of the actual rose in it. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so let's do an initial render and see how it looks. So click on the camera and then come down here for sampling. Our samples are only at 10, which is good. It will go quickly, so we can check it and see how it looks. Okay, it looks pretty good. For whatever reason, I failed to select all of those petals. So we'll just go back, and this should be pretty easy. For the material, we'll just choose rose petal for these. Okay, we can go to rendered view and see if we've got them all. Okay, we've got them all. We'll go back to solid and then take a picture. Alright, so it looks pretty good. If you want to save your result, you can click on image, save as image. If you want to get a higher quality render, you come down here and change this number of samples to 100 or 1,000. We'll do 100 here. I also recommend, if you want to get out of that, you can just press escape. Saving your project now. And then increase the samples and do a re-render at a higher sample rate. So hope you learned something in this tutorial. It was a long one, but I'm having a lot of fun working with low poly shapes. So here's an example of a low poly rose. Alright, I stopped then the rendering process because you can pretty much see the rose. See you next time.